always I was writing at work. I was doing
I love it.
Y'all love it. Friendly reminders. Nothing worthwhile.
Hi, everybody. Hello. My name is Johnny. I'm glad you're all here. Welcome and thank you for coming to our event with Melissa Lozada-Oliva and Rax King to talk about Dreaming of You and Tacky. I'm very delighted to have you all here. A few things before we get started. For those of you who are new to our space, Lost City Bookstore is a new, used, and rare bookstore, proudly and carefully curates the great selection that you see here, that we're all kind of covering up. We're pleased to invite artists and activists, organizers and educators, and of course authors, to join us and share their incredible work. Before we begin, we ask that you silence your cell phones, and out of respect for our speakers tonight, if you purchase your books through Eventbrite, they will be available for you downstairs behind the front counter. Additionally, there will be a Q&A at the end of the event, so please hold your questions and comments until such time. Lastly, this event is being simultaneously live streamed on this computer right here on our YouTube page. And though you won't be on camera, please note that if you participate in the Q&A, your question will be heard by the people that are watching. Yeah, and so without further ado, I would like to welcome Melissa and Rax. Okay, I'm gonna sit down now. So it's pretty basic, pretty chill, but we're just gonna start off mainly by both of you talking about the, I guess, impetus for like how the book came to be and like how you, like the idea into like, oh, I could make this into a book, and then the process of that, and like, did you like it? Was it fun? I don't know. Anyone can start. It's like,
I'm gonna start.
Yeah.
Y'all hear me? Oh, are you on? Can you hear me anyway?
Yeah.
Cool. So my book is an essay collection about pieces of pop culture that I feel have been unfairly derided as trashy or guilty pleasure-y, and centers around such maligned figures as Creed and Guy Fieri, who is enjoying a renaissance, which I feel pretty responsible for, and Meatloaf, the performer. Yeah, rest well, sweet prince. And so the first essay in the collection that I wrote was about Guy Fieri. It is by far my most famous piece of writing, and it became weirdly popular. I still kind of don't know why. And from there, I kept writing more essays of similar length and mood without really thinking of it as anything in particular. I just watch TV and eat fast food a lot, so I would, write what you know. And then it became obvious that it was supposed to be a collection of essays with this through line of tacky, trashy culture. And embarrassingly, it was originally called Junk Food and Jenkos, like the big pants. But that was impossible. So, and when I was meeting with like agents and editors, like 3 or 4 people told me you should call this book Tacky because of obvious reasons. And so I stole all of their idea and credited nobody. And the whole thing came together in less than a year. I mean, I was just writing fitfully for that whole time. I kept like going off the grid for a week at a time. And my mom, who's sitting right here, she would be like, why didn't you call me back for 9 days? And that was why. I was just in the zone, which I think is kind of common for essay collections. I mean, I teach essay writing classes, and once you get in a groove with it, like these 2,000 to 4,000 word chunks of your thoughts, they all just kind of come together. And I sold the book during the pandemic, early into it. So I was living off that piece of happiness for a long time. And then it came out this past November. And so I've been living off that for a while. And the hubbub is starting to die down. So I think I'll have to write another book to have more good feelings in my life.
thank you.
Hello. Wow, I'm just like, I'm so proud of you. Cool. Yeah. So yeah, as a fellow Virgo, I'm very proud of you. Just like we went through our own like the gears of our mind, and we well oiled them, and now we have books. So this I had this idea of Selena coming back to life and going to a Halloween party, and everyone else is dressed up as Selena, the late Tejana pop star Selena Quintanilla, and everyone's like, "You look so authentic," and it's because she is who she is. And then so I started writing all of these like persona poems about seeing Selena back from the dead as this zombie, and kind of being obsessed about how she was stuck in time as this beautiful 23-year-old. And Johnny's 23. And at the same time, I was writing all of these love poems, and they all kind of seem the same. Like when you're in love with somebody and when you're obsessed with a celeb, they all kind of have this like, you're talking to like a you with a capital Y. And sometimes that's romantic and sometimes it's elegiac, and you're mourning them leaving your life in some way, or just like, yeah, not being in it. And I worked on it when I was getting my MFA at NYU, and I really wanted to write. I was there for poetry, but I kept writing stories, and I asked my thesis advisor, I was like, I want to write like maybe like a story. And he was like, okay, but like just make sure, because novels and verses, the problem with them is sometimes like the poems like don't get to be poems. They just are like, you know, they're just like doing the work of telling a story with like line breaks. So it was really important for me for the poems to sing. So I think of the book as like a rock opera. Yeah, and then I met my agent while I was petting a cat at a party after being rejected by many agents who wanted me to be more quote unquote political and aggressive and not talking about sex so much. Whatever, sex isn't political, I guess.
I got that too.
Yeah. So they're like, this is a lot about your love life. I was like, and and then I sold it right before the pandemic, and I was like, this is gonna be like the best 2 years of my life. Yeah, and it's been really cool. I feel really, it's crazy looking at my name on next to a barcode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sale.
Yeah, for sale.
Yeah.
Cool, thank you. So now we're just gonna like have like about 15 minutes for either of you to like read excerpts from your book. You can read as much or as little as you would like. As long as it's not over 15 minutes, because I'm going to cut you off very gently. But yeah, so again, like whoever wants to go, you can read from any part of the book.
I'm going to go. I think I know what was wrong.
Huh?
Yeah. So this is an excerpt from an essay I wrote about the program Jersey Shore. We've got some fans, and it's also about my dad. So here we go. My father had never favored reality TV that tried too hard for verisimilitude, which I believe was a large part of Jersey Shore's appeal. It was such an over-the-top simulation of what it was like to exist in the world. Freed from the expectation that he believed in the events on screen, he could instead engage with them on their own merit as articles of storytelling. He could watch Mike the Situation Sorrentino make out with a 20-year-old in a hot tub because he didn't need to suspend disbelief in order to do it. All he needed to do was laugh, gasp, cry. Jersey Shore excelled in the here and now, in events and shockers. It asked little of its audience philosophically. It only required that you absorb it. So he and I sat on the sofa, our respective cushions indented with our respective ass marks, the dog asleep between us and the coffee table groaning under our weekly deli spread. He inhaled cigarette after cigarette, smoking indoors, which had been verboten when he lived with my mother, but was his activity of choice in his bachelor pad. I knew better at this point than to try to wheedle him into quitting, or even taking his cigarettes outside where they could do less damage to his furnishings. Instead, I smoked with him, albeit at a more modest pace. He once claimed he only smoked 2 packs a day, really 3 or 4. Honestly, though, smoking occupied little of our attention. Jersey Shore was what mattered. We were gaga for it. We sensed something arch in other people's appreciation for Jersey Shore. They watched it for the same reason that we did, because it was entertaining. But they needed to blanket that reason under protective layers of irony. We were proud that we didn't share this need to protect ourselves from our own taste, which we believed needed no correcting, had nothing wrong with it. An example, a couple years later, we bought matching t-shirts emblazoned with one of the show's key catchphrases, GTL, Gym Tan Laundry. We wore them every chance we got. His a little too tight around the middle, mine a little too massive everywhere. Gym Tan Laundry, said cashiers, servers, pharmacists, their tones bewildered. What's that mean? That's what you do to have a good night, one of us would explain, paraphrasing Mike Sorrentino's explanation of the daily GTL ritual. Otherwise, you're gonna feel off and you're not gonna have a good night. But if you feel great and look great, bam, awesome night. Hard to imagine two more implausible people to take these words into their gospel. Neither my father nor I had set foot inside a gym or tanning salon ever in our lives. As for laundry, that was best done every month or two, the better to wallow in one's depression at maximum capacity for the maximum amount of time. I should say at this point that I loved my father. Lord, I loved my father. He was cool, man. Everybody fell for him. Everybody craved his attention. He was a tall, schlubby Jew with a beard and glasses and a permanent food stain sitting atop the belly of all his shirts. And my friends wanted him to be their father, and my boyfriends hesitated to break up with me because it would have meant breaking up with him, too. Pinpointing his appeal is as impossible as explaining what's good about the rain. He was funny, but not every funny person is warm. Not every warm person is a great listener. Not every great listener gives good advice. Not every giver of good advice is selectively unavailable in such a way as to promote obsession. For every time that he was present and charismatic, he'd be a shell of unhappiness 3 other times. But crucially, the first hit of his attention was free. I never understood the appeal, even as I was more enthralled to him than anybody. He was just some guy. But he had, pound for pound, more gravitational pull than anybody else I've ever known. And he loved me. He loved me. I was the object of his focus. As soon as I was born, forget about it. There was nobody else. Sure, his combination of extroversion and self-hatred left me reeling in his wake just as often as it delighted me. He was a difficult master to serve. But I served him because nothing could have been more important than his approval. I had that approval more often than not. But he was who he was, and I was who I was, and that meant that any individual approval only ever necessitated some greater approval down the line. If I wrote a poem that he praised, it needed to win a prize. If I got an A on the test, I needed an A+ on the next test. This was not pressure that he applied to me. I built it on myself, brick by brick, until I was bricked up behind it, always certain that I was the one who could do something so wonderful that it fixed him, made him the happy man I thought he could be. It never happened because that's not something one person can do for another. Inasmuch as I wish he'd done anything differently, I wish he'd known to tell me that. Point being, my father loved Jersey Shore in 2009, so Rax loved Jersey Shore in 2009. It was our ritual for the 3 weeks that winter break lasted. He scooped me from my mother's apartment in his convertible, and we drove to the local deli for half a pound of thinly sliced Hebrew National salami, quarter pound of corned beef, a loaf of thinly sliced marble rye, not the New York rye, marble rye, 1 brisket plate, a box of latkes, and whatever cheese was good that week. And then on to his house, his dog, Jersey Shore, plus, of course, our intensive post-Jersey Shore analysis. Season 1, episode 1 of Jersey Shore contains more action per second than either of the 2 world wars. It simultaneously adheres to and oversteps the existing conventions of the reality show genre. For example, we meet the cast, which is pretty standard for any show of the hot youths sharing a house type. But we meet each person in a not quite minute-long blur. There are commercials that are longer than the glimpses we get into these people's lives, worldviews, and characters. Why? Because Jersey Shore barely cares who these people are. What it cares about instead is how they will hurt each other, and the sooner the viewer gets to that, the better. For comparison's sake, on the first ever episode of MTV's The Real World, the standard by which many of these shows are still judged, we're still meeting the first character 5 minutes in. We've met her family, developed opinions about her overbearing father, decided whether we want her to pursue her dance career or learn computer programming, and the intro still isn't over. But on Jersey Shore, the first character we meet is one DJ Pauly D, Paul Del Vecchio. We learn that he's a DJ who hopes for the Guidettes to come in their pants when they hear his music, that he has an in-home tanning bed, and that it takes him 25 minutes to style his hair every day into what can only be described as a modified Bride of Frankenstein. As soon as our interest is piqued, ding, next. Jersey Shore understood the maxim that the people must be left wanting more at all costs. Because Jersey Shore took its plotting cues from soap operas, forcing the plot forward with frontiersman's aggression every week so that the plots were unrecognizable from one week to the next. One felt adrift after missing an episode. Sure, the previously on Jersey Shore tags reminded viewers of what we'd seen, but those tags only covered so much ground, and Jersey Shore was too thrilling to miss a moment. So as winter break drew to a close and I packed my bags to return to college, I grew despondent. I had no TV at college with which to keep up with the Guidos and Guidettes. By the time I returned home again, my father would surely have moved on. He called me the first Thursday I returned to college at 11 p.m., and I answered in a panic, certain that at this hour it could only be an emergency. But he was bubbly. Okay, so the replay is starting, and I'm going to walk you through it, he said. So, remember how Snooki got socked in the face last week? Well, that was how we went for the remainder of the season. He called me every Thursday at 11 so that he could annotate the replay of the episode for me, having just seen it air at 10. He was always happy to clarify when I needed to stop him from going too fast, which was an occupational hazard of Jersey Shore fandom. Sometimes the universe simply moved too fast for mere mortals to keep up. At midnight, we would engage in our analysis, make our projections for the following week, and then we'd say our goodbyes. Thank you.
Just in a trance listening to you. Oh my gosh. So my book is narrated by a Greek chorus of chismosas, which means gossiping women, bitches, people. So they kind of introduce what's going on. So this is them. Hello, querido reader. Do you like poetry? Maybe you like songs. Do songs get trapped in your head like a rat on sticky paper? Are you afraid of dying and does it fuel you? We aren't trying to sell you anything, but consider hanging us on your wall. Primero que todo, we love chisme. What is a word without the season? What is a meal without the seasoning of gossip? What is a conversation without a little talking some shit? We make eyes at each other through the trees. We clink our beers together on rooftops. We send messages later on the car ride home. We all know the story of Selena Quintanilla, the Tejana pop star who was murdered by her best friend and the manager of her fan club, Yolanda Saldivar. There are heroes, there are villains, there are fans. There are girls trying to find their reflection in a rippling pond and then feeling startled when a piece of gum falls out of their mouth. There is a frog that thinks the gum is a fly and chokes to death. Where were we? This is a story of mirrors, or what happens when you bring the mirror back from the dead, and when you look in it, you see yourself eating yourself. This is about you, except when it's not about you. This is a love story, except when it's not about, this is not our story. I know this book. However, as chismosas, we feel that it happened to us. So we believe we are the best ones to tell it. We will try to tell it to you the best we can. First, let's introduce our speaker, who is also named Melissa, who does not speak entirely for us. She is a girl who dreams a lot. Dreaming of you. I want to know who the you is. Is it God? Is it a band? Is it the person we're confessing to in a diary? My professor said second person is useless, but maybe that makes it powerful. I used to think God was living in the glow-in-the-dark star I had stuck on the ceiling as a child, and whenever I would masturbate, I'd turn away. Late at night when all the world is sleeping, I stay up and think that everyone I've ever loved is the same whimsical spirit floating from one sad flesh husk to the next. I will spoon the wall, or the wall will spoon me, and all of the spirits, every sad clown, every animated guitar, every inside joke about an arbitrary sock will hold me until they fall asleep. You and me are having sex to a movie, or during a movie, or at a movie, in conversation with. At least we're in the dark enough so I don't have to feel bad about my body. At least there's only this light from the actors' faces floating across my skin. I'm afraid even my orgasms have dimples. I text you, dang, I have plans. But what I really mean is, what is better than me and my imagination? What is more loving than all of the ways I can invent you touching me? Regretfully, the barista who gave me $1 coffees didn't have a crush on me, but was just new and was recently fired because he didn't know how to use the machine. I saw him at the bar last night. I waved to him. He cocked his head and turned around. Today, I walked into a coffee shop, but no one was there who looked like they could completely fuck up my life and inspire a mediocre poem and a half, so I just left. That was a lie. All three of those things. I crave a ferry to San Francisco and a dead phone full of messages. I'm horny for an empty chair and a street crawling with the shadows of strangers. It feels good to have all eyes on me. It feels better to blow them away like ladybugs. I can't say for sure if I've ever had good sex. I just know that I can enjoy myself, and then afterward there's a fertile kind of sadness. I wish all my friends could have sex with my lovers so that way we could compare notes, but none of my friends are single. I guess what I'm saying is I miss my friends. Why are people in relationships always taking naps? I came to New York to get an MFA, but also maybe fall in love. Don't tell anyone that. New York is cool because you only start dating someone so that it's easier to pay the rent. That being said, my roommates are always ending things and I can always hear them. Anna says, I feel like I'm just capable of feeling love for multiple people. Delilah's like, but will you always love me the most? On and off for days and hours. They cry and they scream and they pull out their hair and then it gets longer. I want to pull the curtain that separates my bedroom and theirs and tell them to break up, please. Just kidding. It isn't a curtain. It's a series of jackets duct taped together. Just kidding. It's a collection of Polaroids throughout the years that I've strung together with twine. Also kidding. It's just a door. I keep it closed. I'm watching a couple peck each other on the cheek at a stoplight. They're on bikes. I want to yell, that's unsafe, but that would probably make it more unsafe. If you must know, my parents had a bad divorce when I was 12. But before that, they would dance at the family functions. They would bachata across the floor, heads together, hands pressed against necks and backs, sweating and swaying in this violent way. Everyone always said I could sway because it's in my blood. My sisters and I sat at tables lined with flowers and plastic sheets, and we would hide our faces, embarrassed because all of the primos and tios were watching. And of course, my parents knew that. And the song would end. Then the lights would turn on and it was just them left on the floor of the gymnasium rented out for the night, surrounded by defeated balloons and the cake that was all crushed strawberries and earnest whipped cream, which is for some reason the way Latinos love their cake. This is how I like to remember it anyway. Dreaming of You was released posthumously, which is a word that I used to believe meant after you were funny. If you're that pretty, can you have a good sense of humor? Come on. I can't help but crack the hell up listening to Selena whisper, "Como te necesito." Is that what boys would want me to whisper into their ears? Spanish songs are also fucking dramatic. Everything is a stage, I guess, or the altar we die on. So wring your hands at my feet, set some candles on my shoulders, place those flowers in my eyeballs, baby, cry over my wardrobe. I don't know. Don't listen to me. That won't make a good song. How about toward the end when she whispers, I love you, and answers, I love you too. It's like I can see her. It's like she's talking to me. It's like she's alone in her room in some apartment in the ceiling. She's got her fuzzy slippers on. She's got her hair in two tight black trencitas. There's a green exfoliant mask settled on her moon face. The lights are still on because she's a girl who is all at once confident and afraid. She's holding up her two hands and she's pinching them into mouths. She's making them kiss. Thank you. Two more poems. How much do I have? How much time do I have? Okay. Okay. This is a poem where Melissa, who was me but not me, resurrects Selena because she's trying to fill the hole in her life that is not filled with romance. My reasoning. Because it is not enough to be seen, because I need to see, because I miss her even though I've never met her, because it had to be me, because if it wasn't me, then it would have been somebody else, the medium. I'm tired of feedback and I'm addicted to the internet. If someone else gets involved, it would just be too messy. I need flowers. I need a moonlight dance. I need a song to sway to and access to Wi-Fi. I do some research. I go down YouTube holes. I come up with my own method. How I bring Selena back. 1, grow out my hair, purchase chunky gold hoops, buy some bright red lipstick that will stain. This is mainly for effect, but it can't hurt. 2, I sing backward into a recording device and then play the recording device backward. 3, I can't tell my friends anything about this because they would think I'm nuts. 4, so I get rid of my friends. 5, I take out a loan and turn my bedroom into a lab. I take a USB drive full of Selena's images, songs, and interviews and put it into a pot of my period blood. After 3 weeks, roots begin to grow at its ends. I set up a table. I draw a figure on the table using lipstick. 6, I sing backward into a recording device and then play the recording device backward. 7, there's more to do. I wake you up and I ask you to quickly think of the girl in elementary school with the prettiest handwriting. 8, I walk into the kitchen, tie a red string around my finger, say this girl's name 5 times while spraying Fabuloso into the air. You walk in on me and are all, what are you doing? 9, I spray you in the face because I'm a reactive person. 10, I run away because I'm a reactive person. 11, I come back because I thought about what I've done. 12, days go by. Finally, it is midnight and storming. I take the USB out of the pot of period blood and I put it in some soil. I add fertilizer. I've never been good at waiting. 13, there is a cracking in the air. The walls are vibrating and I am holding the whole room together. I am on the ceiling and underneath the basement floor. There's a rapid knocking on the sliding screen door, a scream coming from the pot. My cat hisses. The lights turn on and off. I am in the closet spying and outside the closet feeling like I'm being watched. Now it is midnight. I open a girl-shaped door. The knob holds my hand. A cloud of pink is in front of me, rising from the table, the kind of stuff that leaks from attics. I put my hand in and scream, 13A. Now I'm in a white dress running among the trees. You're behind me holding up a jukebox and it's playing something with drums, 13B. You lose me among the trees. I hear you calling my name. I want you to keep chasing me and I don't want you to know how far I would go to find out the truth of something, to scratch an itch that will tear the whole universe open. I'm sorry about this, but I'm not sorry about this. I'm already lighting the candles. I'm drawing a circle in the dirt with salt. I'm taking off my shoes. I'm already feeling the dirt beneath my feet dance. Okay, I'm gonna do, okay, this is a contrapuntal, and okay, I won't tell you much of the plot of the book because you should just read it, but contrapuntal is 2 poems together that make 3 poems, or 1 poem. 2 poems side by side. So, okay, you can read this one by itself and this one by itself, and then together they make a 3rd one. So I think it's like a very good way for people to talk to each other. So this poem is called Yolanda and Selena Don't Talk Anymore. So this is Yolanda, her murderer's side. I stopped you just in time. Now you'll be remembered. They'll never hear me sing. Most of the time, I'm a villain or a lesbian. Jealousy reveals a Polaroid of the woman I am not. When I called you bitch and shot you, what I meant was love. I just didn't want you to go. In another life, I am someone I can be proud of, the face you see in the moon. In another life, you want to love me. We are on the road going 85, playing a tape with only 2 songs. My arm is around your shoulders and we are wasting time like water. You're breathing in my ear. This is Selena's side. To dream about love for all eternity. That's why death isn't so bad. I like to think I've been pretty lucky for all my life. I'm a saint who loved too hard, trusted too deeply, a prayer whispered violently, a letter stained with fear. I heard fans cheering. Their hands came together because they loved me. My heart was once the shape of a pink fist before it turns blue. I was brain dead before I was a headline. In this dream, I am a wife and a mother, a woman who says yes. I'm marinating steak, and when you want to bite, I let you. Somewhere far away, I'm on a loop and I can't stop smiling. I am still alive and everyone is watching, an entire country singing in my ear. And this is them together. I stopped you just in time to dream about love. Now you'll be remembered for all eternity. That's why they'll never hear me sing. Death isn't so bad. I like to think I've been pretty most of the time, lucky for all of my life. I'm a villain. I'm a saint or a lesbian who loved too hard, trusted too deeply. Jealousy reveals a prayer whispered violently, a Polaroid of the woman I am not, a letter stained with fear. When I called you bitch, I heard fans cheering. Their hands came together and shot you because they loved me. What I meant was my heart was once the shape of love, a pink fist before it turns blue. I just didn't want you to go. I was brain dead before I was a headline. In another life, in this dream, I am someone I can be proud of. I am a wife and a mother, the face you see in the moon, a woman who says yes. In another life, I'm marinating steak, and when you want to bite, you want to love me, and I let you. We are on the road going 85, somewhere far away. I am playing a tape with only 2 songs on a loop, and my arm is around your shoulders, and I can't stop smiling. We are wasting time like water. I am still alive, and everyone is watching. You're breathing an entire country, singing in my ear.
Thanks for sharing. I love both of those. Now I have some questions before we open up to a Q&A, and I found out that I'm moderating, so I got to devise the questions. And my first question is naturally about important contemporary cultural topics, Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly. But mainly it's about I feel like there's been discussion generally speaking in the world about putting celebrities on pedestals and how that's a bad thing, or stan culture and how that's a bad thing. But both of these books in certain ways have fixations on various celebrities, and I'm curious what the two of you find shelving for a moment the dangerous side of it. What do you find fun or exciting about celebrity fixation, and how does that show up in your work?
You go.
Okay, so for the last 3 years, I'm let's deconstruct celebrity. No more, they're just people. And because it is really dangerous when you put someone on a pedestal, because it dehumanizes them and it takes away all of their faults, and they can never do anything wrong. So when they do fuck up, it's the worst thing. But now I'm sometimes I'm what if when you're a celebrity, you understand your role, and your role is to entertain the people, and you have an avatar of yourself where you're just I'm just gonna let that person do what I want because the people need this. They need an escape. And I'm maybe that's the role of celebrity.
Yeah, I think that, from the fan side, it's all projection.
Right.
I think there are fans who don't realize that their understanding of this or that celebrity is pure projection, and they think that they're worshiping a real person. Like with John Mulaney, when he divorced his wife, and all of his stand-up until that point, he just seemed like such a wife guy.
He's very my wife.
Right, yeah, correct, boys. And but that was the only thing people had to go on, and based on just that, they were out for blood. They were just like, you're not allowed to leave your wife. And
Right.
like, he is. That's something that happens. And I wonder all the time, like in medieval times, when the version of celebrities that you were liable to see in your life was like knights or like lords of the house or whatever. Like those are the people who are above you in some way, who you like resent for their power, but also probably like envy and like hero worship a little bit, because that's just the person who's directly above you in the food chain.
Right. They're not gods. They're mortal. They can die, but they're like, there's like a class difference and like a clout difference.
Yeah. And I think also
the knights with clout.
They did it for the clout.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think the mortality too is a big part of it, because with gods, like you can pretty much make them do or say whatever you want.
Yeah.
Like the Greek myths, people were turning into sheeps and, you know, flying around and getting burned up by the sun. And that doesn't really happen.
Yeah.
But with celebrities, some part of you is like, if my life would have shook out a little differently, or if in the future something happens, that could be my life.
Right.
I could be in the Megan Fox Machine Gun Kelly relationship.
Right. Yeah. I love that there's this TikTok of someone interpreting Britney Spears' captions as like, 'cause they're like, maybe these don't make sense, but if you're from the South like me, they truly do. And she's just like a normal woman being like, my, like the sea. I am not even gonna do it, but like, yeah, I mean, yeah, Britney. There's an alternate universe where Britney Spears just like is like a Walmart mom and like, yeah, a karaoke queen.
Yeah. So I think that like. I think that ultimately, as long as you are aware that the person you admire and read about is not you, and that your entire impression of them comes from just yourself, and that they are ultimately a separate person from you, that's what allows the celebrity worship to be fun, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so too.
So the next question is naturally like, what do you think? If you had to like make your top 3 best celebrity couples, but like, are you like an Angelina Jolie, Billy Bob Thornton fan?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Or are you like a, you know, like
yes.
That's the best one.
I love the like manic love storm. The like, yeah, they're just like biting each other's nipples and getting their tattoos of their, like doing things that you're gonna regret, and that is, it's like crazy, and you know, but also love. That's cool. I'm like, wow, you guys really felt something.
You really love to see like a crash and burn relationship that you see it coming and they don't.
Yes.
And of course it's all PR, but like
totally.
We're watching a play, and it's an awesome play.
Yeah, thank you for it. Oh, Ben and Jen, love them.
Love them.
Yes.
I like the original iteration better.
Oh yeah.
This Ben and Jen Volume 2.
Really?
Boring.
I'm kind of like, good for you guys, like in your 50s. Yeah. As someone from Boston who is Latina, who's like family has like primarily dated like white townies, I really like, I'm like, that makes sense.
See, some part of you believes you could have dated Ben Affleck.
Yes. Yeah.
So, yeah, they're a good one.
Yeah.
I liked them better before, but they're good. I don't care for this Julia Fox and Kanye West shit.
Oh no,
at
that's
all.
PR. Yeah.
It's so obviously PR, and it's cynical.
It's really sad.
And I liked her a lot.
Yeah.
Before.
Yeah, me too. She's a femdom, right?
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't care for it. I want Kanye to get help generally.
Yeah.
Generally, I'm worried about Kanye.
He's not doing great.
Yeah.
I think that's where we're landing.
Yeah.
Celebrity couples.
Yeah.
Kanye's not doing great.
Kanye's not well.
I just like to refer to my little sheet. How do you? Okay, this is a question that I have too, because I feel like it's come up. I feel like I've noticed it in pandemic more than anything else. But this like the novel of like the unhinged woman, or like, you know, like Atessa Moshfegh, and like, you know, everyone's like on book talk. People are talking about like my year of rest and relaxation and that kind of thing. I think one, they're cool stories, but two, I think it's like interesting as like people find ways to like branch out and tell stories that aren't so common as they used to be in the past. What do you think? I don't know, like what are your opinions on it? Like where do you see it going? Where do you like, what other offshoots could you like imagine, or would you want to see in like a weird vision boardy-esque kind of way?
I want to see more. I mean, I say this as a person with no attention span. I want to see more like really big novels. And I would love one of those to be the novel of the unhinged woman. I'm reading a really big novel right now. It's by Thomas Wolfe, and it's like 700 pages long. And it's just like world building after world building and all these.
That's fun.
Yeah, I love a place.
Yeah.
I love when it
a
like feels like a place. Yeah.
Yeah, my friend, when I worked at a bookstore, a fellow bookseller said that like a novel is a love affair and a short story is a handshake. And I was like, short story could be a one night stand.
I feel like it's a one night stand.
Yeah. So I want to like a novel is like a period of time in your life where you're just like looking back. It's like you're like, oh, that's when I was reading that book.
Right.
Like that thing happened when I was reading that book. And I think that's cool. I think The Unhinged Woman, I feel like Elena Ferrante might have kicked that off with like that, what's that book with the woman, her husband leaves her and she goes crazy. What's
Lying Life of Adults?
No, it's a purple book.
Oh,
the worst thing to ever say to a bookseller is purple. Yeah.
I mean, she's got a lot of unhinged women in general.
She does. I don't know what's so appealing about it. I think I feel like all trends eventually like come to a close. Like maybe in 5 years they'll just be like the return of the normal girl. Yeah.
I think Sally Rooney does Normal Girl.
Normal. Yeah.
Normal People is her book.
Yeah.
I mean, I like a lot of the novels where like, how do I describe it? I mean, autofiction plays a big role in this type of book that I'm struggling to describe. It's like very spare prose-wise. The prose is like utilitarian, and it's all about the characters, and not that much actually happens.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of those novels that I really enjoy, but they don't lend themselves well to unhinged storytelling. It's like, who can tell the most normal story?
Right. Yeah.
I would like some more crazy stories.
Yeah. Okay. Lately, I'm like into things where people are just like kind of a loser.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, you have like you don't have your shit together, and like you're kind of boring. I don't know. I'm like really into that.
Yeah. Love a book about it.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think. Have you watched Brand New Cherry Flavor?
I have. Yeah. I really like
that's like a story about like an unhinged woman.
Yeah, but like coming into her power.
Right,
yeah. Which I think is an important
and like
aspect.
the central love story is like her art.
Right.
Like there's like she's like fucking this guy, but instead it's like her movies, her baby. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think that, I mean, it's for right now, it's satisfying to read unhinged women's stories, because for so much of American literary history, people writing those stories about the crazy women were men.
Yeah.
Like F. Scott Fitzgerald just constantly writing these crazy bitches who were so obviously his wife. Like, and then, there's a lot of beautiful writing that comes of that, but it's also it's hard not to bear a grudge.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, maybe there's like an entire fountain of unhinged bitch literature. Yeah.
God willing.
Yeah, God willing. Yeah. There's an unhinged bitch in the audience tonight. Yeah.
There's one inside all of us.
Yeah.
That's all for me. So now if anyone else has any questions, they're more than welcome to just like raise their hand and ask it. I'm not going to point at you. So if you have a question,
Wait, I have a question.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on Pete Davidson?
Looks like he slings dick.
Yeah. People keep asking, like, what is the appeal there? He doesn't look good and he's not that funny. And it's like, you know what the appeal is.
Come on. Yeah, it looks like he gives you a good time.
Yeah.
He knows his role.
Yeah.
Yeah. His role is like, not here for a long time, but good time, but not a long time.
Yeah. He's like the consort type.
Right.
He and Kim seem to be having fun. I mean,
totally.
Much more than Kanye and Julia Fox.
They're going on roller coasters. Yeah. I love Pete Davidson.
Yeah. He seems cool. He seems like a nice little himbo. That's fine.
That's it. The himbo we need.
First of all, Pete Davidson looks like the hottest boy at your Jewish summer camp. That's the deal.
That's right.
We thought about this a lot at the show.
He's like the dude who sells weed at your Jewish summer camp.
Like, he would just crush at Camp Shy.
Yeah.
But what's your favorite book that you've read recently? Or it could be like a long-form article because we're all busy.
No, I know how to read.
It's not about knowing how.
Long-form article.
I mean,
It could be a New Yorker chick.
what are my favorite books that I mean, Melissa's is incredible. She's been saying so much nice stuff about me because I've been going first and she's been going second. But like, it's like no book I've ever read in my life.
I feel this.
I'm like blanking. Sean, what have I read recently?
You read Ferrante's?
Yeah, I mean, I love Elena Ferrante forever. I've read the Neapolitan novels again, and then the Lying Life of Adults, and I mean, inimitable writer.
Joan Didion does
Oh God, I read fucking The Year of Magical Thinking, and you know, like my dad is a person who died. It is maybe not a book I would recommend if you're feeling fucked up about someone who died. It is the saddest, but like poignant sad, not just bummer sad, but it was. It's like 100 pages long and it was such a slog. It was so hard to read.
Damn. I just read Godshot by Chelsea Beaker, which I really liked. Love a book, like a cult book. It's The Age of Aquarius. Yeah, that book was good. I mean, I want to have a baby. I was like, I want to have a baby. In the drought. Yeah, I don't know, whatever. And I just read this book of poems. It hasn't come out yet. It's by Angel Dominguez. It's called Desgraciado, The Collected Letters. And it's really cool. They're writing letters to the like ultimate colonizer, who is like also the ancestor. And like people are always like, you know, I'm my ancestors' wildest dreams. And when like Latinx people say this, they're like often not talking about their colonizer ancestors. So this person is, and they're writing letters to Diego de Landa, who famously like burned a bunch of like sacred Mayan text and like tortured a bunch of Mayan people, and is just like responsible for a lot of like horror and sorrow. But all of these letters are just like, they're just like letters to the colonizer, but they become like, as I said before, like elegiac, but also like romantic, and like they're like love letters, and it's just like very complicated about like, I've just like never read anything like it. And it's coming off of I forget, but it's called Desgraciado. Everyone should read it. Yeah, love that book.
It is my friend's birthday today.
Happy
And so,
birthday!
in honor of that, could you share a birthday memory, any age?
Oh, I got a fucked up one. It was my 9th birthday party. I hate that this memory lives so close to the surface. It was my 9th birthday party, and I had all my friends over for a little sleepover, and then one popular girl. She was like my reach invite. She said yes. So I was tense as fuck. I was just like, this has to go perfectly. She needs to laugh at the Princess Bride as much as everyone else, and very stressful. And then we all went to sleep. And it seemed to be going well. Popular girl was having a good time, laughed at all the same stuff as me. We're copacetic. We all go to sleep, and I wake up in the middle of the night to everybody in the room talking about how annoying I am.
No.
Everybody in the room. It was like 5 or 6 people, just fully in their normal speaking voices, like not whispering. That is
That's horrible.
a birthday memory that I hope your birthday is better than.
Wow. Okay, my birthday memory. Okay, wow, we had birthdays at the same time.
That's right.
Memories at the same time. So instead of having a quinceañera, I had a quincearoki. And so it was like much cheaper. And like my mom and dad like rented out like a karaoke room for me and my friends. And I wore this like dress from Hot Topic, this like pink dress, and like it was just like a bunch of like weird teenagers hanging out, but my mom like my grandparents were there, and everyone was like singing like Nirvana.
Grandparents love karaoke.
And then my grandparents were like fully asleep, and then my grandmother would wake up occasionally to be like, highlight. Yeah, and that was, I remember being really stressed out during that party, but also like that was really cool that I had a cancer rookie. Yeah. Happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday!
A memory you might appreciate. I went to a sleepover with some of my close friends and a bunch of their girlfriends. And I brought some CDs, including my sister's Papa Roach CD. Somehow it disappeared. It disappeared that night. I was like, oh shit. I took her CD and then ended up buying a whole new CD so that she didn't know that I
That was the kind of shit you used to have to do. If you lost your Papa Roach CD,
Yeah.
it was gone.
Yeah.
You were not listening to Papa Roach anymore.
Damn, let's bring that back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have two comments/questions for both of you. So one thing I absolutely loved about both of your books is that it reminded me of other female writers, but just like blue open genres. And so for you, Rex, like it reminded me so much of Eve Babbitt's. And like I just was wondering, like if that's like if she's an influence of yours, because I just really she just jumped out of the page for me. And then for Melissa, if you've ever read Norma Jean Baker of Troy by Anne Carson, it's basically taking Helen of Troy and turning it into Marilyn Monroe and kind of like that sort of like mind-bending historical aspect. And that really reminded me of your work really reminded me of that, but also just made it 10 times better. So I just wanted to thank you both and also kind of probe on that a little bit.
I love Eve Babbitt's. Again, R.I.P. That's like the nicest thing you could say to me. Yeah, I mean, I've been reading her for years. I do want to point out that I was reading her before it became cool again after that Vanity Fair profile. Just in case anybody was wondering if I'm cooler than the people who write for Vanity Fair, I am. But I mean, yeah, she's a huge influence. She kind of taught me that she and I think the essayist Lisa Carver are two people who taught me that you don't have to be super serious as a writer. You can be voicey and you can use slang and exclamation points and, just let your writing be bubbly and fun-loving in its own right and not just, so many writers, they'll write about being at a party or whatever, and it just sounds like the grimmest shit you've ever heard. And I have never really been able to pull that off. I was never good at like serious prose. And yeah, Eve Babbitt is a shining example of like, you don't have to be serious to make good work.
That's so funny you said that. When I was writing this book, Anne Carson was my professor. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I've never read anything that she has written. But and her class was like crazy. It was like a clown class. And she would be like, I was in the elevator and I heard someone say, somehow I lost both of them. I want you to go home and I want you to write a homonym out of someone, write somehow that phrase and then make it into a sestina and then write it and then read it backwards and then someone's going to do a dance. It was just, and then people would we would come in with like, it was just like a performance class. It was just like a lot of fun. But I think she like leaked into my brain for sure. And while I was writing this, she was like about to put on Norma Jean of Troy at this place in New York. And she took us to the construction site that it was being built at. I don't know why, like it had nothing to do with poetry at all. But she is like really cool, and I think definitely like inspired me to like be playful. And I think that, and like as like not take myself too seriously, which we were talking about before this. Like
we don't take ourselves seriously enough, probably.
Yeah, I'm always like, I'm an artist. Like, I have like a book out.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's like I'm like forever like a clown, and I think I'm gonna live like that.
I'm just like cartwheeling through life,
oh yeah,
like, hitting like nails on my palms of my hands.
Yeah, balloon animals.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, literary balloon animal.
Yeah,
that's us.
So the answer to your question is that we are fully on our clown shit.
Yeah.
Found people who made that excusable.
There's a question from the live stream. Someone named Emily wants to know if you all have a favorite word.
Oh.
Snapdragon.
Okay, cool.
I've been saying draconian a lot.
That's a good one.
It's like because I just like realized what it meant.
Yeah. Oh, once you learn a new word, you're using that
I
shit
was
all
like,
the
it's
time.
so draconian. I'm like talking about like ketchup.
Can I ask about your other book? I literally had no idea who you all were when I walked in. And I was just reading about you and your book, Peluda. Like that really jumps out at me because I literally just started growing out everything.
Oh wow.
And I had sex with a guy. He's so turned on. Sorry.
The dudes love it.
They do.
Yeah. So I guess I'm gonna go find that book and probably this one. Like where did that come from? And like where are you at in your Peluda journey?
Yes, Peluda to Peluda. My mom is like a professional, like mom's an esthetician, so she's like waxes for a living. So I grew up around like wax and hair removal and have this like complicated relationship to it. So the book is kind of about like my mom and beauty and hair removal. And like white and like dealing with like the white feminism of like don't get rid of your hair, but also like but it's different if I don't get rid of my hair. Anyway, where I'm at in the Peluda journey, I think like I don't know, I've been getting my face lasered. That's where I'm at. I feel like I don't like having hair on my face. But I think it's just like, yeah, that book is about just like complicatingly like dealing with like what you were given, and like loving it and also realizing like you don't have to live with what you were given, and like how much I love my mom. Yeah.
And it's a banger. You should definitely get it.
Thank you.
The first time we met, you were reading from Peluda some years ago. Yeah.
Wow.
Melissa doesn't
yeah.
remember that. I don't know.
I like blackout.
I guess I'm wondering, as creative people, how do you keep from burning out when you're at work?
Oh,
I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm kind of joking, but I am burned out all the time. It's like
Yeah.
this weird function of I'm not really on the hook for that much work in a given day, so I can get to feeling really idle. But then the work that I do is emotionally taxing. I mean, not to be a little baby about it, but it is. And so, you know, crank out a day's work, and if it were a day at an office or even in a restaurant, like I would go home really only feeling like I had done normal work. And at the end of a work day, for me, I feel strange. It's like the way people feel after therapy sometimes.
Right. Yeah, it is like, I mean, it's so cool that I can like do this for a living.
Totally,
and like I'm working on a new book and I've been having like mental breakdowns about it because I'm like, what if I can't do this? Like, or I'm having this intrusive thought where I'm like, what if I stop being creative?
Yeah.
It's
like it's
so
gonna dry up.
Yeah. It's like, I'm like, I don't know. It's I feel like everyone is burnt out and then it's just like, whatever, nothing matters. I'm just gonna do it anyway.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you just like write your little 1,000 words or whatever.
Words, and also just like have fun.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't want to forget like being playful.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, since you guys finished your books, if you guys have found in what you're working on right now or written since then, not to make you guys work on stuff this time, but have you found like either the tones or like the style of connecting what you were writing together? Have you found that either influenced what you're working on now, either like you're doing, it's like making you do that, or you're doing the opposite of that because you don't want to do it again?
I think I've been having this like crisis where like reviews for my book have been like, well, this is clearly someone who's on Twitter.
Yeah.
And like, and I'm like, oh, I don't want that. Like, I don't want you to know who I am.
Yeah.
Like, I want like my work to speak for itself and not you be like comparing it to like a 250 word tweet about like a yeast infection or something.
Yeah.
Ew. So I think like I don't know. I'm writing a novel right now. And that is also, but it's also like, because I don't like being told what to do. It's like not gonna subscribe to like the genre of a novel. So it's gonna have like a script in it and like a list in it and like a verse in it. Cause I'm just like, I don't know, it's just like easier. So I think that is, this book has like informed how I'm gonna write that, which I'm like, a novel can be a feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm also working on a novel right now, not based on, but heavily informed by the Tevye the Dairyman stories, which is,
What's
of
that?
course, they are the stories that Fiddler on the Roof was based on,
Cool.
but like much darker and less, shiny, happy musical.
Mm.
And, but of course, my writing up until this point that people are aware of has been very personal and narrated by me. And this is a novel about people who don't exist. And I definitely worry that like someday it's going to come out and people are going to look at it like autofiction or something. Like people are going to, yeah. And it's going to be more like Rax King, who you know from Twitter.
Right. Yeah.
I too.
But then it's like, that's how you sell books.
Yeah, it's
really
a double-edged sword. Yeah. But I guess it's less about how my book has informed my writing itself and more about how it's informed how I want to be perceived as a writer.
Yeah.
You feel so exposed when you start getting reviews for a book that you wrote.
Yeah, you do. And some people really, it's really cool. Like some people get it more than you get it. And you're like, oh wow, I never thought about that. And it's like unbelievable. I'm like so grateful. But then some people will be like, yeah, like it seems like I read that she did this online. Blah, I don't know, like and that feels bad.
Yeah, the exposure feeling isn't necessarily negative, but it is intense. Mm-hmm. And I feel a little under a microscope sometimes. Even the reviews have mostly been positive. Like there is very much that feeling of like, oh, I'm being observed now.
Totally. And I think it gives me like an anxiety that I didn't know was there, or like I'm like, oh, I didn't realize I'm anxious.
Same.
That someone is like, yeah, people looking at you, it does something to you.
No one was paying attention before. I could say whatever I wanted and nobody knew.
Right.
Except my friends.
It makes me appreciate people who have like personas or like, did you ever follow Coke Talk on Tumblr?
Yeah.
So she was like Dolly Parton, like her avatar was like Dolly Parton, and like no one knew who she was.
Yeah. There's a benefit to that.
Yeah.
But then you also kind of like people to know who you are.
Exactly.
Very strange. Doesn't feel great all the time.
Yeah. I'm addicted.
We probably have time for 2 more questions.
I'm curious how like the editing process was for both the books. Did you feel like it changed a lot from the original version, or do you feel like with what you're currently working on, the editing process would be different now that it's coming forward by its previous work?
For me, my editor Vanessa was really great. I know that she advocated heavily for my book to even be bought by the publishing house, and she went to bat for my weird little vision 100% of the time. Like, as I was saying in response to another question, my style is very unserious and jokey and exclamation point heavy, and that's not the sort of thing that gets published at Alfred A. Knopf. And so there was definitely this feeling of like getting away with something as I was being edited. Like anytime my editor didn't cut something that was really important to me tonally, that was a victory. And it really didn't happen very often. I feel like I got off very easy on the edits.
I came to my agent with like my thesis, and it was about like 85% like what this book is, but she was like, in order to sell it, like let's kind of make it different. And I really lucked out. She's like really like editorial heavy, and was like, the Greek chorus was just like me talking in retrospect in like all caps, and she was like, I think this is a Greek chorus, and I was like, oh, you're right. And like and then like I don't know, I kind of just like sold it as is, and then like I just felt like my agent was like a huge part of that. And now writing this new book, I'm like writing it from scratch, like working with my editor, and that has been cool because I can just like email him whenever, and I'm like taken care of, and I'm like, oh, this is how I'm feeling. And I don't know, it's like an immense privilege.
Yeah.
Because like before that, you're kind of just like talking to your friends, and you're just like, will you read this? Will you like your friends are honestly the best editors.
Yeah, I mean, before my book ever saw like an editor, an agent, my friends were the ones giving feedback on it. You know,
Mhm.
writers, they have this endless like feedback circles. And
Right.
I'll
the
read your
Google
thing,
Doc.
you read mine.
Yeah. Mhm.
But I mean, they did incredibly valuable, like
Yeah.
upfront, just machete cuts to
Totally.
the bullshit drafts I was handing in.
Yeah.
So.
There's so much like, yeah, invisible labor that goes into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any last questions to close us out?
I have one. Y'all kind of talked about this, but like, how do you navigate kind of deciding where your writing is like for you and where it's for an audience? Like, are there things that you write that you choose not to share? Are there things that you like change because of, like, the literary industrial complex that like you feel sad about, or like just kind of navigating making art like your labor source?
I'm going to say something that my writing mentor has said to me before, which I think is in line with what you're talking about. Don't write something that you think people will want to publish. Write what you want to write, and your job at that point is to get someone to publish it, if that's what you want. And so, I mean, in that regard, like, there are people who write with an eye to an audience and to publication, and even to like publication by a big 5 publisher, like very oriented towards that goal, and that's fine. But I do think that if you follow all the rules of everybody you can think of ever reading your book, you're just going to write a boring book. Like, it's not going to sound like you. It's not going to sound like anybody.
Yeah. I think like being, or like getting to like whatever level we are on has required like a lot of stubbornness and a lot of like stupidity, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, if I was like smarter, I would like have gone like a completely different path and like been a different writer, but I wouldn't have like stayed true to myself. But I also think like I don't know how to not write something and not share it.
Same.
I think like everything eventually ends up being shared because I'm like obsessed with other people and I need validation. And I also am like, I want to like enjoy like this feeling of someone reading my work like while I'm alive.
Yeah, that's the other thing, is a lot like the writers who seem most successful, who you've like heard of the most, whose books you really enjoy. I mean, there's a lot of luck and there's a lot of hard work, but there's also a lot of just drive to have people look at this silly little thing you came up with in your own brain.
Yeah.
It's kind of a particular fixation. It was for me. I was really determined to like get my book in roughly the shape it was already in into people's hands. And through a shitload of luck and people willing to like go to bat for me, it shook out that way.
Right. It's like a perfect formula of like the hustle and like going to the right parties and like I don't know, just like working hard. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much.